What's good, everybody? So I wanted to do a part 2 of my Lightroom tutorial. Last time I kind of showed you how I like my workflow a little bit, how I kind of go through my photos, select which ones I actually want to keep, which ones I want to proceed with editing, how I kind of get rid of the other photos that I don't want. And so today I'm going to show you like kind of how I edit most of the time. Now my style of editing changes depending on how I'm feeling. Sometimes I'm really into color, sometimes like really vibrant color. Sometimes I'm just like purely into black and white. Sometimes I'm into like faded black and white. Sometimes I'm really into like contrast. Right now I'm really into like really dramatic, washed out highlights and kind of washed out colors and tones and things like that. So I've actually created a preset that I've been using lately, which is the preset that I'm going to show you today. Here I have a photo that I took in New York. So anyways, the first thing I do is I look at the photo and I'd make any like minor adjustments. Like for instance, I might come over here and decide that I need to rotate the photo a little bit if it's looking like a little off. So yeah, it looks like it needs to be straightened out a little bit, and I kind of just do this by my own perspective. Kind of try to find a line within the photo itself that I can follow. So here I'm kind of like going with the garbage can and a little bit going with this pole back here, so that looks, I guess, good right there. I'm not too picky when it comes to that stuff, but that looks better already. And other than that, I might try to mess with the white balance a little bit. The white balance actually looks pretty good here, but sometimes it's a little off and maybe it's a little too cold, and you can warm it up a little bit. But I actually liked where it was at, so I'm gonna just click this reset. And anytime, I probably shouldn't have done that. I'm gonna go ahead and click Command Z, which is actually just gonna take the white balance back to where it originally was. Anytime you click reset, that's going to completely do over any editing you've done to the photo. And I had done that crop, so I wanted to keep that, so I just pressed Control Z to undo the white balance change that I had done. So next what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here. This is kind of your editing panel over here. It's called the Navigator, I guess. And I actually have these VSCO presets here that you can purchase from the site, I guess, and they have some pretty cool stuff too. You see, like, these are pretty cool. They have a lot of cool stuff. They have different profiles depending on the camera that you have or the look that you're going for. This is the Canon one, so I actually like that a lot, but for the sake of keeping things, I guess, a little bit more personal, like I would actually use probably something like that. I'm going to just show you the preset that I've done. Go all the way down here under user presets. You can actually create your own presets. I'll show you how to do that. So these are kind of the presets that I've created. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to click on this style set 1. And as you can see, it's really washed out. It's almost black and white. But the colors are just really washed out, and this is a good starting point for me. I like this. This is where I want to start at. I actually like how this looks. So just coming over here, these are kind of the settings that I've created under the basic section, the basic tab. I've created these settings to kind of fit for the most part. Of course, every photo is going to be different, so you're going to have to adjust these a little bit. But this is a good starting point for me, I found. So I went ahead and saved this as a preset. So just by looking at this right off the bat, I'm going to look at the photo and see exactly what I think it needs. The highlights look good. Shadows, I might bring the shadows down a little bit. Just to get them out of the shadows. You see what happens is if you go this way, you lose all the shadows. This is more shadows. So I'm going to come more towards the middle. This would be neutral. So I'm just going to keep the shadows pretty light. Maybe like right there. Highlights look good. You can zoom in on different parts here. You just click on the photo itself, and you can kind of see, what you're looking at. I think it looks pretty good. I'm actually going to boost the highlights a little bit, maybe to like 60, little bit over 60, maybe like right there. I like how that looks. Maybe a little bit more contrast. If you watch some of my VSCO tutorials, you know that I like to pump the contrast. So 60 looks pretty good there. Exposure looks okay. I might see what it looks like at 0.85. So that's looking pretty good to me. I like that as a starting point. And of course, you can just mess with all these settings. What the whites will do is, you know, it'll increase the white tones, and then the blacks, of course, will increase the contrast of the blacks. I'm gonna actually lower those a little bit. If you try something, you move something and you don't like it, just go ahead and press Command Z, or I guess Control Z if you're using a Windows-based computer, and that'll just undo that change. So this looks pretty good to me right now. The shadows are a little bit too much. I'll go up just a little bit more, maybe to like 19, negative 19 there. And so these clarity, what clarity does is kind of sharpens it a little bit. If you go to the left, it makes it really soft. If you go to the right, it kind of sharpens it just a little bit. I don't like to use this too much, but just a little bit of it makes the photo kind of pop a little bit more. The vibrance is, just basically what it sounds like. Controls the vibrance of the color tones. So if you go this way, that's very vibrant. This way, not so vibrant. So I'm gonna keep that where it's at. Saturation will saturate the colors basically, so make each color a little bit more potent. And given my style right now, I kind of don't want that. So yeah, this is a good starting point for me. I've kind of gone through here and played with things and kind of messed with it and found the point that I like. So next, what I've done is I've actually created a curve. So I called it Style Curve. So I'm going to go ahead and select that, and what that is going to do is kind of add that faded, filmy kind of look. And where you're going to find the curve is right down here under the Tone Curve section, or the Tone Curve tab. And so I usually select Custom, and then you can kind of mark these points on the line. It starts off as a straight line, and you can kind of mark these points, and I use what's known as an S-curve. That's not a huge secret or anything like that. It's pretty widely used. That's kind of how you achieve this this kind of look. There's tons of tutorials on how to do an S-curve. Basically what it does is, like, these are your lows, and then your mids, and then your highs. So these are like your blacks, shadows, these are your whites, highlights, and things like that, and these are kind of the midtones. So what I do is I kind of raise. You'll see here when you raise this, you get that's where you get that faded look. It kind of washes out those, those darker tones. And up here, this kind of controls your highlights, so you can see what it's doing there. And you just kind of mess with this thing, and you kind of draw an S and get it to where you like it. I put a point here, a point here, a point up here, and one right there, and I just kind of manipulate it to get the look that I want. And so this looks good to me. And also what it's going to do is it brings out the color a little bit more, so you can see a little bit more color in the photo. And of course the highlights are brought out, they pop a little bit more, so there's a little bit more contrast, and of course you get that nice faded look. So I actually like how that looks. What I'm going to do is come back up here and drop the highlights a little bit more, just so you can see a little bit more detail in some of the cement in his hair and stuff like that. So I'm gonna leave that like right there, and I think that looks good. So for the sake of keeping the tutorial as short as possible, I'm not gonna go through everything, but here you'd be able to increase the saturation or the hue or the luminance of each individual color. So like, for instance, this stuff up here is kind of red. What you can actually do is click on this little thing here, and you can click on a point in the photo, and it's going to tell you which color is affected. So you'll see it'll get highlighted. These zeros over here, depending on where you're hovering over, it'll show you exactly which color you need to adjust in order to manipulate that specific area of the photo. So for instance, this is the red. If I pump this, you know, it'll make this, you know, a deeper, darker red or lighter or something like that. I don't really like messing with that too much. Split toning, kind of, this is where you kind of get a, you know, you can kind of color grade, I guess, your photo. So you would select which color you want to manipulate, you know, in this little section and the saturation of it, and you kind of achieve that. So this is kind of how you get like, you know, you can stylize your photo that way, I guess, or color grade it. And again, I don't really like messing with that. I mean, it's cool if you can do it, but I kind of like consistency, and so, you know, I don't really mess with this a whole lot, but it's pretty cool to mess with sometimes. So I'm just gonna go ahead and reset all this stuff. Like where that's at right now, it looks pretty good to me. So the next thing I'm gonna do in the next tab underneath that is detail with your control, where you'll control your sharpening and your noise reduction, and I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. So I don't use noise reduction all the time, because if I zoom in here, especially in Lightroom, because what happens is when you hit that noise reduction, you'll see it'll kind of smooth out the noise, but you also get you lose a lot of the sharpness in the photo. It kind of softens it. So I try to, you know, only use that if I really need it. What I will use though is the sharpening tool, and I've created presets for both of these as well. They kind of work for almost every photo, but sometimes I need to adjust it. So I'll click on the sharpening. You can see that automatically makes it a little bit, I don't know if you can tell, when I click on my preset, makes the photo a little bit sharper there, and I'll zoom out and see what that looks like. And I mean, this is a pretty, you know, the focal point, the subject of the photo is pretty far back, I guess, into the background. He's pretty removed from the foreground. It's not like a up close crop portrait or anything like that. So I mean, this would probably be fine, honestly, but you could zoom in and you can see it's still a little bit you know, out of focus. So then coming over here now, I'm not like super technical when it comes to Lightroom and stuff like that. You know, I kind of just mess with things, and that's how I've learned to really achieve the look I want. And honestly, the sharpening tool on VSCO I feel like is a little bit more effective for some reason. It's just simpler and easier. I guess right here you have to kind of mess with this radius. So the radius is going to be like the amount of pixels, I guess, that you get. You know, so 1.2 you might get like, it's looking at this. If you do 1.4, you're getting a bigger amount that you're looking at. So I kind of just mess with this, and you know, the detail is kind of self-explanatory. So you can see as I move it up, I guess you increase the amount of noise. So you kind of have to try to find like a happy medium between a good amount of sharpness and, you know, maintaining a low level of noise. And then the masking, I kind of just mess with that and see where it leaves me. So this looks pretty good right here, I think. Let me see what happens when I add that noise reduction. So you see it just immediately softens it up a lot, and I'm not a huge fan of that, but I mean, like I said, it's pretty far, the subject is pretty far away from the foreground, so I can probably get away with it. But I mean, a little bit of grain doesn't hurt, so that looks good right there. I really like that. You know, the noise reduction, I'm sure you can find a tutorial on that. And then there's also some things under this lens correction. I usually never mess with this, but if you have like chromatic aberration, which is like certain lenses, when you take a photo like on certain lines, certain colors like bricks and stuff, you get like this discolored sort of, you know, it's like bright neon colors that kind of is created in the brick. I don't know if I have it here, but yeah, a lot of times you'll see like in up against brick, you'll see like chromatic aberration. You can look that up. And then a lot of times certain lenses on certain cameras create like this vignetting, which is like black faded out corners that you can correct using this tool. And then you can also add a vignette if you're into that, and you see you do this, and you kind of just like, you know, you can do that if you like these faded corners. I don't really like that. I find it kind of dated, so I never use that, honestly. This camera calibration, no idea what it does, so I'm going to try to go into that. But yeah, that's usually what I do. I keep it real simple, real basic. I think that's why I like VSCO so much, because it's real basic, very straightforward, and it does a great job at editing your photos. Don't ever let anybody tell you that, you know, you're an amateur because you use VSCO to edit your photos. You know, if you can achieve the look that you want, you know, regardless of how you get there. Now, Lightroom does a good job too, as long as you keep it basic. Sometimes it's kind of hard to figure out exactly how to achieve the look, because you have all these settings and so many things you have to mess with. But once you can kind of find your niche and where you like to be, you can create a setting, a preset. So for instance, if I wanted to save all these settings, I would come up here to develop, and I would select new preset, and what you would do is you would enter a name for it. And then what you can actually do is, you know, if you just want to have a preset for the noise reduction setting, you can do that, which is what I did, or the sharpening, or each individual, or I mean, if you wanted to, you can check everything and say, okay, this is the exact settings I want to apply to each photo, and then mess with everything individually later. I kind of like to separate it as much as possible, so I'll do the basic tones, and then I'll do one for sharpening, and I'll do one for noise reduction, and then I'll do one for the curve. That way I can kind of see how the photo looks at each point, at each stage in my editing process, and kind of adjust what I need to. So yeah, I like this photo a lot actually. It looks really cool. I might post this a little later on. So yeah, this looks really good. I like it. I'm happy with it. So then what I'd basically do is I'd go back to library, and then you have the photo selected here, and then you just kind of hit export, and then here under export, you can export to a specific location, and then you would choose that location. I'm just going to export it to my desktop, choose, and then you can actually select to put in a subfolder, or add it to a catalog. And then this file renaming stuff, what I like to do is add copyright Matt Mendoza to all my photos, along with the number, or the original file number. So you can select exactly how you want your files to be named or renamed on export. So you can have a custom name with the sequence number, date, and file name. So you kind of just select the way that you want to do it. I have here, I've written in the custom text, custom name, and original file number. So I want this to be added at the beginning, and then it'll show you kind of an example. If it's video, I think you can edit video in here. I've never tried it. I think it would be kind of laggy, so I don't do that. And then I export my photos as JPEGs. I kind of lower the quality on my photos, honestly. I don't think you need to retain unless you're doing some sort of editorial or like publication style work. I don't think you need to retain 100% quality, so I kind of reduce it to 80, especially since what I do, you know, a lot of times it's just upload to Instagram, so it's a relatively small resolution and file size, so you really don't need to retain full quality. So I usually stop that down to 80 for the sake of, you know, saving some hard drive space. Or what you can do is also limit the file size. So if you don't want your file size to go over, you know, 1,000 kilobytes, or, you know, whatever, then you can do that here. But I just do the quality. You know, you can resize your photo. So on export, if your photo is too large for like a website or something, you can select this and select exactly, you know, what resolution or what dimensions you want your photo to be at. And of course, you can also do sharpening. So, you know, you can sharpen, like this is mostly for print, I think. If you're going to print your photos, you can select whether you want, you know, it to be exported for use on like matte paper or glossy paper. And then of course your metadata, you can add all that shit. If you have a watermark, you know, you can select your watermark or whatever. I don't have one, I don't use one, so I don't do that. And then all you basically do is hit this export, and it'll export your photo. You'll see the status of the export right up here, and then once it's done, it'll tell you that it's complete or something. So yeah, that's basically all I do as far as editing my photos. You see it says task completed in Lightroom. Really basic, simple process. I don't probably take advantage of all the tools like how I should, but like I said, that's what I appreciate about VSCO, is the simplicity, and I can still achieve the look I want. You know, there's still all these things up here that you can utilize, but that's just how I edit. That's what I do. That's my process. Hopefully you can kind of take that and create your own process and learn some different things. That's going to help you in your process to achieve the look you want. But yeah, thanks for watching. I probably won't do another Lightroom tutorial because that's kind of all I really do in Lightroom. I appreciate y'all watching. I have some other videos coming up, some more like vlog style videos. And I'm really working on making things more cinematic so they're more enjoyable to watch. So I really appreciate y'all watching. Please subscribe, like, and share the video. Comment below. Let me know what other style videos or what type of videos you guys would want to see. Appreciate ya. I'm out. I'm just going to delete them from, in that situation, you just click remove and it'll take them out of Lightroom. But I'm going to go ahead and delete them from disk.